Structuring content for your website or application could be difficult, especially when you want to scale it. In this video, I will show you how to design a content model in Strapi 5 using best practices. We will build a page builder for a company website using Strapi collection types, dynamic zones, component, single types, and relations. And make sure to stick around because we will use Strapi AI and Vercel V0 to speed up our backend development and front-end development. First, let's talk about content modeling, what it is and why it matters. Content modeling is the process of structuring content so it can be reused, managed, and delivered consistently across websites, mobile apps, and even IoT devices. Think of it like a blueprint for your content, defining what type of content you have, what fields each one needs, and how they relate to one another. Now, why does this matter? First, it helps improve content reusability. It also speeds up development, enhances collaboration. Another benefit is faster development. Now that you have a content model, developers will spend less time restructuring any messy data, and this would accelerate builds and your iterations. Another benefit is that content modeling is futuristic because by abstracting your content from presentation, you make it easy for anybody in your team to adapt to these new platforms or technologies that are ever changing. You also have scalability, which means that content modeling enables you to scale as your data sets grow. And finally, you have reduced costs. With a content model, you avoid the rework, application, migration issues, or other issues that will cost you time and money. So where do you start when designing your content model? For this, let's explore the basics of content modeling in a headless CMS like Strapi. So here is my Strapi admin dashboard, and let's start with fields. Fields are the building blocks of every model, and Strapi comes with different fields, such as your text, Boolean, rich text blocks, JSON, number, email, dates, password, media, enumerations, relations, unique identifiers, rich text for your markdown, components, and dynamic zones. Let's take a look at what collection types are. Collection types are used when you need multiple entries. Example could be your blog, categories, countries, facts, features, your fact categories, pages, states, tags, and so on. And next, you have single types. Similar to collection types, single types are used when you need a single, unique, and global entry. Example could be your global settings, which has your site name, company name, logo, footer, header, default SEO, your social links, your address, and even phone number and email address. And next, you have components. Components are used when you need a reusable block of fields, such as your fact block, hero section testimonial, your footer, header, SEO, address, link, and so on. And if you noticed, we have a category here called dynamic zones. Dynamic zones are used for content areas within a content type that allows you to compose content using a mixed list of components. Think of it like a section where editors can drag and drop components in a page. And lastly, you have relations. Relations allow you to make your content reusable across different contexts without duplication. And this could be one way, one-to-one, one-to-many, and so on. So now, let's create some diagrams for our content model for a company website. As you can see, I already have my content model, which I have designed in Figma and which is a good practice. So let's start with collection types. I'll zoom in, and as you can see, I have my user, which represents people who interact with the system. For example, the blog authors, and for access control like user authentication and user authorization. Next, you have state, you have country, and if you notice, we separated the address component from these. We didn't do that. the address component will come to that. But for now, we separated these two for easy filtering, sorting, and searching, and for uniqueness. And then we have page, which is used to manage individual pages like the home page, about page, service page, and so on of the website. You have the feature, which shows the features or services the company website provides. You have the FAQ, which stores the individual frequently used questions, the FAQ category for every FAQ, and then you have the team member. Don't confuse this with users. Team members are not necessarily going to interact with the system users or the system, because not all team members are going to use the company's system, and not all users are going to be team members. So the team members are going to just be displayed on the company website. You have the blog, which stores blog posts or articles, and then you have blog category, which will be used to filter blog articles by category. And then you have the tags, which are like labels to every blog post. Now we have next we have the address component, and we can reuse this in multiple places, and by separating it from the state and country as a component, it will enable filtering, sorting, and future scalability. For example, you could add your address and then state, your country, and state. And then we have the SEO, which is a component that centralizes all our SEO related metadata. And it's a component because we can reuse it on some pages like the blog post page and any other single page, so as to have the proper metadata. You have the footer, which is a component because it will keep footer related content and it will just be in one place. Editors don't need developers to help them update footer links or other data. You have the header, which is a component because, like the footer, it centralizes the header content for editors. And you have the link, which is going to be a component and like a universal atom for your links across your website. So you can use this in your header as repeatable social links or other links. You can reuse it in your footer as repeatable social links. You could also reuse it in your feature because sometimes you might want your feature to have a link. And then you have the global settings. The global settings is of type single type because, like I said, single types are unique and content-wide information of your content. For example, you can have your site name, your company name, tax ID, logo, and other components. And you could also include email, phone number, and so on. That is why it's called global settings. You can choose any name you prefer. And then you now have the dynamic zones, which is the fact block, the hero section, and the testimonial. The fact block is a dynamic zone because it will allow us to insert fact sections, and the hero section, it's a dynamic zone because it is usually the large and visual section at the top of a page, and editors can easily drag and drop a hero section into any page that they want and customize it independently. And the testimonial is a dynamic zone because they are contextual and you might want them on the home page, product page, or a dedicated stories page. So they are not globally required. So making them a fixed field in every page would be an overkill. Now, let's start with collection types. Let's create them in our Strapi admin panel. Here is a fresh Strapi project. If you want to learn how to install Strapi, check out the Strapi documentation. So let's start by creating the blog collection type. And to do that, I'll head over to my content type builder. So we'll create a collection type called blog, and the blog will hold fields such as the title, the the slug, the body, and banner. So let's create these fields, and let's start with the title field. We'll call it title, and then it's going to be of type short text. Next, we'll add the slug, which is going to be a unique identifier. And we attach the field title to it. So whenever you create a title, it automatically generates a slug. The next will be the body. I would prefer a rich text markdown so that I can be able to add in the blog content as markdown. And I'll call this body. And then lastly, I will add the banner, which is going to be a media type, and it's going to be a single media because the blog banner should just be a single image, and I'll call it banner. Then I'll click finish, and once that is done, I'll click save. Later on, we'll add dynamic zones like fact block, SEO component, author relations, category relations for your blog, tags relation for your blog, and proceed to create other collection types. And don't forget, the diagram for your content model is in the blog tutorial, so do check it out. Next, let's create some reusable components. We'll first start with the address component. So when you navigate to your content type builder, click the components icon to create a new component. And we'll start with the address. And notice there is a category here that says select a category or enter a name to create a new one. So we'll create categories for our components. Some will be global, some will be shared, and some would be dynamic zones. That is the ones we want to use for dynamic zones. So let's create the first category, which is shared, and let's select the icon for our address. The shared here refers to components that can be shared among other components. Global is like components you want to use globally. For example, footer, header, and SEO. And shared is like the one you don't want to use globally, but you definitely will use them. So let's proceed by clicking continue. And for the address component, we would need the street number, which is of type number. So we type the street number and we'll select the number format as integer. And then we add another field called street name. It's going to be a short text as well. It's going to be a short text. We have the city, which is of type short text. And then you could add geolocation, which is of type JSON, if you prefer, or if you want, you could add it, but I might decide not to add it. Okay, let's just add it. So call it geolocation, and we click finish. And once that is done, you click save. Now proceed to create other components, and don't forget to assign them to shared and global categories depending on your preference. Now, after creating your components and assigning them to the different categories, if you notice we don't have the dynamic zone components yet, we will do that after creating our single type. So let's create a single type. And for this, we'll create the global setting, which for now we only have the fields, site name, company name, and logo. You could add other fields if you want. So let's create the global settings. And later on, we could add footer, header, SEO, address of the company, social links, social link from the link component, and so on. So let's add the site name, but first let's give it a name. Call it global setting. We click continue, and then we add site name, which is the name of the website. And then we add the company name, which stands for the name of the company. And we would have the logo of the company, which is of type single media. And we click finish. Now we can save. After creating the global settings, let's create components we'll use for dynamic zones. And their category will be of type dynamic zone. So start by creating the hero section, which will have a title, a subtitle, and an image. So once again, we'll call it hero section, and instead of shared or global, we'll call it dynamic zone. And for our hero section, we would give the icon. We'll use this icon. You can use any icon you prefer. And for the hero section, like I mentioned, we'll give it a title, which is going to be a short text, a subtitle, which is going to be of type long text, and then an image, which is of type single media, and we click finish. Now proceed to create other dynamic zone components, such as the testimonial component and the fact block. In your dynamic zone components, your fact block, hero section, and testimonial, let's add them to the collection types that need them, which are the page and blog collection type. Later on, we'll add all these components to their respective collection types, but for now, we only want to add dynamic zones. So navigate to your page collection type and click the add another field to this collection type. The field type would be a dynamic zone, and for page, I will call it sections because I want them to represent sections in a page. So I'll add components to the zone. I won't create a new one because I already have my existing components. So I'll click or select use an existing component, and then I will select the components for my dynamic zone, which are the testimonial, hero section, and the fact block. Then I'll click finish, and then I'll head over to my blog collection type, add a dynamic zone component. Here I would call it dynamic zone. You can call it whatever you want, and then we'll add component. I will select use an existing component. For now, I only want the fact block from the dynamic zone to be in the blog collection type. Like I said, later on, we'll add other components to the collection types. So let's save. After adding your dynamic zone, let's add components to components. And we'll start with the footer component, where we'll add some links or social links. We'll select the component field and use existing component, select the component, we'll call it social links, and we'll select the component, we'll select the link component. Unfortunately, we haven't created it, so let's go back and create the link component. So we'll call the link component, and it should be of a shared category, and you can give it a name you prefer. I would select the globe or the earth, or okay, let me select this one, and I can click the configure component, and the name of the field will be social links, and it's not going to be a single component, rather it's going to be a repeatable component. Then I'll click finish. And as you can see, I have my link component here. So let's also add it to the header. And for the header, I'll create a component field. I'll use an existing component. I'll call it links. Select a component, which is the link, and it's going to be repeatable. This means that we'll have many links in the header component. So let's click finish, and let me make sure this is correct. Social links repeatable component, and we'll then go and yes, I've added the link component to both the footer component and the header component. Now let's add link to our global setting. And for our global setting, we'll add a footer, which is going to be a component field. We would use an existing one. We call it footer, and it's not going to be repeatable. It's going to be single. We select the footer component. We click finish. We add another one. We're going to select the header component. We're going to name the field header. We select the header component. It's not going to be repeatable. And we add another field of component. We'll call it, okay, we use an existing component. We'll call it default SEO. And for default SEO, we're going to select the SEO component. It's going to be a single component. And then we'll add another component. We're going to call it social links. It's going to be repeatable because we're going to have many social links for a company website. So we select the link component and we click, no, let's add the address component as well. And we select the component. Address will be the name of the field. And we select the address component. It's going to be a single component. We click finish. And as you can see, we have the components in our single type, which is global setting. Now I can save and wait for my server to restart. And like we mentioned, we would add these components, some of these components, to other collection types. So let's go to the user collection type and add our address component, because users should have an address. It's not going to be repeatable, it's going to be single. And I'll click finish. I'll head over to the page collection type and add the SEO component. I will also add this for it's going to be a single component. Let's call it SEO, and I'll select the SEO component and click finish. Let's proceed to relations. And like I said, relations connect content types and enable content reuse without duplication. So to begin, let's create a blog to author relation. We click the add another field and select relation. This will be a many to one relation with the author. So this means that many blog belongs to one author. So the inverse will be of type user, which is from the user's permissions plugin. And these are the people who will be interacting with the system. We will not select this because these are admins of your Strapi back end or your Strapi admin panel. So we'll select this. and we change this from user permission to author. So this means that a user who is an author can have many blogs. So we click finish and then we save. Now proceed and create other relations for your collection types and components. So far, creating content types has been slow. How about we speed it up with the new Strapi AI? The Strapi AI helps you build your content type or content structure in minutes just by chatting with it or uploading your code or by importing from Figma. And for this project, would use the import from Figma section, but you can still use other ones like chatting with the Strapi AI or importing your code. So let's begin by importing our Figma file or the Figma of our content model. This is the content model diagrams of my company website example. And here in Figma, we need two things. First, we need the API token of your Figma and the Figma URL, which is the link to this frame here. And to do this, we need to first get the Figma API token. So I'll click this and scroll down to help an account, or then click the account settings tab. Then from there, I check out the security tab. And as you can see, I've created my Strapi and Figma API token. You can create yours. And once that is done, you make sure to get the URL of your frame. And to do that, make sure you click the frame, click share, and then copy your link. Once you've copied your link, head over to your Strapi dashboard and paste the link to your frame, and then click import. This would import the frame of your Figma design. And as you can see, my frame has been imported. So I can click finish for Strapi AI to generate my schema based on this design. And as you can see, Strapi AI is thinking and would create my frame, which the prompt is to create schemas from the attached images. So I'll wait for Strapi AI to do so. And as you can see, Strapi AI has created my content types. So you can proceed by chatting with the AI so as to modify, update, or adjust your content models. Now, let's generate our front end using Vercel v0. I have my Strapi project deployed on Strapi Cloud, which allows you to host your Strapi project in a couple of minutes and have it live and shareable with everyone. So make sure you check out the Strapi Cloud for more. And here in my project, I have installed the Swagger documentation plugin, which allows me to preview the schema of all my content types. For example, I have my blog. I could get the schema for my blog. For example, when I fetch my blog, I should see an ID, document ID, title, slug, and the rest. So this is what I will supply to Vercel v0. But to do so, I could get the full documentation JSON. This is an open API JSON specification that documents the Strapi REST API so that v0 will know what I'm working with. So you can get this when you head over to the SRC folder or the source folder. You go to extensions, and then from your documentation plugin, you find the full documentation.json. And next, I have my prompt, which says you are a senior front-end developer experienced with TypeScript, React, Next.js, building dynamic content-driven website with Strapi as the backend. So the task is to build a mock front-end in TypeScript, because you can choose whatever. If you want JavaScript, you can specify that. And using the attached content model diagrams and the full Swagger documentation JSON file. So we're going to attach our content model diagrams and then the JSON file. And then for our design style, we've specified our colors. Black and white should be minimalistic with lots of spaces. That is white spaces and subtle dividers. You should have no heavy shadows and with flat design. The focus should be on simplicity, lightweight and distraction free, and smooth transitions when opening and closing pages, and that it should add light and dark modes. So the deliverable should be a full working website. And when I head over to Vercel v0, I have pasted my prompt, and next I will select my diagrams and my full documentation file, as you can see it here, and I have these, which are my content model diagrams. So I'll click open, I'll wait for it to upload, and after that I could click here. But before we do this, now there are different ways you can prompt. There are different ways you can tell v0 to create your mock front end. You could specify the response you get when you fetch any of the collections. You could specify it, and you could also decide to provide an API for Vercel v0 to fetch from, and you could also like specify the screens you want or the pages you want, but for this tutorial we're just going to stick with this. And then after that I'll click enter, and then I'll wait for Vercel v0 to create my front end. And as you can see, Vercel v0 has created my front end, and here is the home page. In the home page you can see my blogs, and then the footer, which has the copyright, the social links and some links. And here I have the about us, which has some details, and then we have the blog, which has some labels, an author, and we have the team, where you have the team members, and you have the FAQ, which has the frequently asked questions. You can see the categories, and you also have the light and dark mode. So you can see the code here. Here's the code, and you could decide to export your code by copying this and running in your console or your terminal, and you can download the zip to your project. So this is our front end, and you could, if you want to open the full tab, you can do so, and you could see our company website. So that is it. Thanks for watching. If this helped, please hit the like button, share and subscribe. And please let me know in the comment section what you would build with Strapi AI and Vercel V0. If you want the full written tutorial or the GitHub repository, check the description below. See you in the next one.